Hello everyone. So today we will be doing going over the article "Managing Brands in the Social Media Environment" that is written by Jensen Walker, Lou Tompkinson, and Witz. Let's dive into it. So, this article really highlights how social media has transformed the very nature of brand management. Traditionally, brands were shaped almost entirely by companies. Firms created the message, they controlled the story, they ran the advertising, the PR, and consumers were mostly passive receivers. But now that world doesn't exist anymore. Social media has completely changed the balance of power. Now consumers just don't consume the brand message, they actively shape them. They post reviews, they share their experience, they create videos, they comment publicly, they bash publicly, and sometimes even redefine what the brand stands for. So brand meaning is no longer owned by firms only. It's now co-created through ongoing interactions between brands and the consumers. Now, let's talk about the key themes that are highlighted in this article. So, the first big key theme in this article is the shift in brand authorship. Now, brands have become what the authors describe as multi-vocal, meaning there are so many voices shaping the identity, not just the company's voice. So, instead of a single controlled brand message, we now have a dynamic, constantly evolving stories that develop through consumers' perception. Now, the second themes looks into at consumer generated brand stories. Now, this includes things like online reviews, complaint threads, viral TikTok posts, parody ads, fan made videos. And what's powerful about these stories is that they are public, they are emotional, they are relatable, and highly trusted. Now, once someone shares a real experience, other consumers believe it. So these consumer stories now play a huge role in shaping a brand image and performance, sometimes even more than traditional advertising. Then the third article basically moves to the third theme, which is about how branding now lives inside social networks. Consumers influence each others constantly. A single post can spread from a friend to a friend and from follower to a follower, shaping opinions as it travels. Brand themselves also become a part of these networks, interacting with consumers and sometimes even interacting with other brands. So, brand meaning is now created inside a web of social relationships. Now, the fourth theme is about how firms should respond to this new reality. Since consumers are now shaping the brand meaning, companies can no longer rely on control based strategies. Instead, they need to contribute or they need to coordinate with their own brand stories with the consumer stories and engage in a conversation without trying to dominate or silence the consumer's voice. Because the moment the brand seems controlling or inauthentic, trust level drops. The fifth theme focuses on negative stories. Social media has turned complaints into a public conversation. A single bad experience can go viral very quickly, and the way a company responds and how fast its response can strongly influence a brand's trust. Silence, denial, or being defensive can actually make the damage even worse. So, brands need to be present, transparent, human, and be very responsive. The last theme that the article touch bases is that reminds us that not all brands are affected equally. Brands that are highly visible, emotionally meaningful, or structured under one umbrella brand tend to face greater impact, both negatively and positively. So, social media risk and opportunities depend on the type of brand involved. Now, let's turn to the key takeaways. The first major key takeaway is that consumers are now true co authors of a brand. Meaning is no longer produced only inside boardrooms or their marketing departments. It is shaped by conversations, shared experience, culture, community, and identity. Firms are no longer the sole storytellers, they are now participants in an open storytelling space. The second key takeaway is that brand performance today is heavily driven by online narratives. Positive stories can lift the brand equity and loyalty. Negative stories can spread globally within hours and damage reputation. And because everything becomes and happens in public, consumers' expectation for transparency and honesty are much higher than before. So the way brands respond genuinely matters, not just what they say, but how they behave. And finally, the third key takeaway is that future ready brand management is all about dialogue and authenticity. Brands that succeed are not the ones trying to control every message, they are the ones that listen to consumers, empower communities, and engage in honest conversation. They accept that they cannot fully control meaning anymore, but by participating openly and respectfully, they build something that is even more valuable, credible, that is credibility, trust, and long term loyalty. So, overall, the message of the article is very clear. Social media has opened up branding, it has made it collaborative, and today's strong brands are no longer built just through advertising, they are built through interaction, transparency, community, and authenticity. Thank you.
Thank you, Ella. Now let's look at the business survival. To survive in today's social media landscape, brands must learn new role. They must move from being brand controllers to becoming historical creators. Let's look at what this shift really means in practice. Three brands, one new reality. Marketing literature is very clear today. A brand is no longer defined by what company says, but by what consumers say to each other. Three brands illustrate this new reality. For Nike, Nike creates the slogan, just do it, but users now own the hashtag. Hashtag just do it. Consumers use it to share fitness journeys and personal struggles and even the social cases. The lesson here is simple. For modern brands, survival means empowering user stories. Second, Maybank. As a traditional financial bank, Maybank launched a hashtag Maybank Saya, featuring real stories from customers and employees. For legacy industries, survival depends on the rebuilding trust through authentic storytelling and emotional connection, not just the comparator messaging. Shin's global growth is driven largely by user-generated Xinhu and Triumph videos. Their strategy turns users into a zero-cost distribution network. A highly scalable engine for global expansion. Generated content is a double-edged sword. On one side, it drives growth. Research shows it improves the brand image, builds brand communities, and increases sales. On the other side, it creates a risk. Negative comments spread fast and in public, and the small issues can turn into the major crisis. Even memes can change how a brand is seen. So how should brands respond? Research says the active engagement. Brands should respond with empathy, not cold statements. Empower frontline employees to solve problems publicly and recognize valuable user contributions. From this, we can build a clear survival playbook based on three fundamental shifts. The first shift is identity. The old mindset was this is our brand story. The new reality is this is our brand's story universe. Brands now provide the materials such as hashtags or platforms and curate the stories consumer create. And this leads to the second shift, strategy. Brands must move from planning perfect campaigns to hosting outgoing conversations. Listening becomes just as important as speaking, and responding become more valuable than the broadcasting. The final shift is organizations. Social media can no longer belong only to the marketing department. It must involve customer service, operations, and frontline teams. Brands should break down the internal silos and start measuring conversation value alongside traditional financial metrics. So overall, a brand's most valuable asset today is no longer a tightly controlled logo, but co-create a network of stories. Because where the story take flight, brands survive. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. For this part of presentation, I will be discussing the pros. View from the three key stakeholders: firms and brand manager, the consumers, and the employees. First, let's look at the firm and brand manager. One major advantage is stronger persuasion through the storytelling. Instead of brand telling us how great they are, consumers tell the story for them through the memes, jokes, and short video. A good example is Duolingo. Duolingo even created the playful content like the fake death announcement of out on the TikTok. This makes the brand feel relatable and fun, and that the consumer-born storytelling become a key part of Duolingo identity. Another benefit is stronger engagement and relationship. The social media provide the brand to speak like humans, not the corporations. Through the comments, replies, and shared content, the consumers feel personally connected. Duolingo, by using the TikTok to engage with the Gen Z, show how these interactions turn the audience into a loyal followers and advocates. Brand can also tap into consumer creativity. Think about Oreo. Oreo twist campaign that invite the fans to reinvent how the Oreo cookies are eaten. The result is funny, creative video made by the consumer that spray faster and feel more authentic than the traditional ads. Next, come to the consumer. One key benefit is empowerment. On the social media, the consumers have a voice. Review, rating, and personal experience can influence thousands or even the millions of another users. The consumer also use the brand for identity expressions. For example, the Uniqlo by using the hashtag #UTPlayYourWorld campaign to encourage the people to share their personal style. In doing so, the consumer express who they are and at the same time also to shaping what the brand represents. There's also a strong sense of the social connections. By participating in the brand story, the consumer connects with others share the similar interests and value. And importantly, the social media improves the service recovery. When the problem arises publicly, the brands are forced to respond. A good example is Mission Malaysia, which addressed the halal compliance concern after the social media backlash, showing how consumer voice can protect the brand trust. Finally, from the employee perspective, the employee can become the brand heroes, highly empowerment and resourceful operative. When the employees are trusted to speak and act on social media, they help to solve the consumer issues and enhance the brand credibility. Companies like IBM empower their employees as a brand advocates, making the brand communication feel more authentic and trustworthy. In conclusion, it is benefit for brands, consumer, and the employees through the stories, creativity, and real human connections. That's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Kayin. Let me start with the negative. Brand and firms. In the social media environment, firms are no longer the sole owner of brand meaning. According to Gensler, consumers have become powerful authors of brand stories. This creates a major challenge and impact to firms because brand meaning is no longer centrally planned. When consumers generate negative word of mouth or UGC, this story can spread rapidly across platforms and communities. As a result, brand identity becomes fragmented and inconsistent, leading to brand dilutions. Firms may also suffer financial damage and sales loss, especially when negative narrative dominate public conversations. A clear example is McDonald's Story campaign. The firm intend to promote positive and emotional brand storytelling. However, consumers quickly reinterpret hashtag and use it to share complaints about hygiene and food quality. This shifts the campaign meaning entirely and damage the brand image. The key challenge for firms is that they must maintain their original goal while simultaneously aligning and co-create across multiple platforms. Negative narrative created by consumers spread faster than firm control message, making brand management unpredictable and difficult in social media era. Moving on to employees, social media has fundamentally changed their role. Nowadays, every employee represents the brand. Small operational mistakes that will happen from private interaction can now become a viral public content. According to Gensler, customer complaints have shifted from private service encounter to highly visible public brand content. This creates intense pressure on employees. They are exposed to public criticism, emotional hostility, and reputational risks. Even when the issue is minor, employees must constantly remain alert and behave correctly, knowing that a single error can escalate into a brand crisis. A well-known example is the United Airlines incident, where an employee accidentally damaged a musician's guitar. In the past, this might have been resolved privately. Instead, it became viral. Consumers generate content that caused several reputational and financial damage to firms. The key challenge for employees is managing continuous public exposure in an interactive social media environment. They must respond with empathy, calmness, and professionalism while dealing with the emotional consumer. This creates emotional exhaustion, response anxiety, and growing need for professional training and clear response guidelines. Finally, I will discuss the impact faced by consumers. Consumers today rely heavily on social media for brand information. However, excessive exposure to brand content, influencer posts, and consumer opinion lead to information overload. According to Gensler, highlight that multiple conflicting brand stories from firms, consumer communities, and media make it difficult for consumers to form clear brand meanings. As a result, consumers experience confusion and decision fatigue. They struggle to differentiate between authentic, credible, and relevant information. Much of the user-generated content prioritizes emotion and engagement rather than accuracy, which reduce consumer trust in both brand and online informations. For example, when brands like Nike heavily advertise across platforms and collaborate with numerous influencers, consumers may feel overwhelmed. This can lead to emotional exhaustion, muting brand content, and reduce engagement as a form of self-protection. The key challenge for consumers navigating a fragmented brand environment where boundaries between brand identity and personal opinion are blurred. When social media information fails to meet expectations, consumers may feel dissatisfied and disengaged from the brand entirely. In summary, social media-driven brand storytelling creates a serious challenge for firms trying to control brand meaning, employee managing public interaction, and consumer overwhelmed by conflicting information. That's all to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Gui and Kei. Let me start with a simple question in my part. In the age of social media, who actually controls a brand story? The company or the consumers? According to the article and also from real cases, the answer is very clear. Consumers now play a major role in shaping brand meaning, and this directly affects business survival. For example, Duolingo did not survive on the traditional advertising alone. Instead, they allow consumers to create playful memes on TikTok. This user-generated story helped Duolingo stay culturally relevant, especially among Gen Z. However, the opposite can also happen in the United Airlines case. A single negative consumer story, United Bricks guitars, went viral and caused serious reputational and financial damage. Similarly, McDonald's launched the hashtag #McDStories to encourage positive storytelling, but consumers redefine it into a space for complaint. So what does this tell us? Business survival today depends less on controlling messages and more on how well firms manage to respond to consumer-generated brand stories. Now let's look at the positive side and how different stakeholders benefit from this situation. For firms, consumer-generated brand stories can be extremely powerful. Yeah, they feel more authentic and persuasive than traditional advertising. For example, like Oreo's tweets, the campaign allowed consumers to creatively remix the brand, which increased engagement at very low cost marketing. For consumers, social media creates empowerment. Consumers are no longer passive audience. They can express identity, creativity, even a personal value through the brands. A good example is Uniqlo, where consumers can share their personal style indirectly and co-create the brand's image. And for employees, this environment allows them to humanize the brand. Best Buy 12 Force is a strong example where employees were empowered as heroes to solve customer problem and publicly on Twitter. So overall, when managed well, consumer-generated stories can strengthen relationship, trust, and of course engagement across all stakeholders. However, the same openness that creates value also creates serious risk. For firms, the biggest challenge is loss of control. Negative stories have spread faster than positive ones, which can dilute the brand meaning and damage reputation very quickly, as we saw with United Airlines. For consumers, too much information can actually become a problem. Constant exposure to conflicting brand stories can cause confusion, decision fatigue, and readers' trust. And for employee itself, it's also face pressure. Small mistakes can go viral, and employees are constantly exposed to public judgment. This means they need emotional control, professionalism, and fast response skill. So, for summarize this point, clearly extended case studies show that consumer generated brand story are a double-edged sword. They increase engagement and authenticity, but at the same time they fragment brand meaning and increase reputational risk. Therefore, in contemporary marketing, business survival depends not on controlling brand messages, but on orchestrating multifocal brand narrative across consumers, employees, and platform. Thank you.
Over the next 5 years, we will see a clear shift in how brands handle their storytelling on social media. Instead of trying to control the message, brands will focus on aligning their messaging with what consumers are already sharing. Storytelling will become much more platform specific. For example, what works on TikTok doesn't translate directly to LinkedIn. Brands will need to adopt both their tone and format depending on the platform. We will also see a stronger push toward the localization. Global brands can't afford to use one-size-fits-all messaging anymore. Instead, they will adjust content to fit local cultures and values. And finally, companies will start using more advanced tools to monitor what's being shared about their brand in real time, so they can respond quickly and stay updated with public discussion. A clear example is Coca-Cola's Real Magic campaign. Instead of just launching a global ad, they worked with creators around the world to adapt the message for local audiences. By doing that across TikTok and YouTube, Coca-Cola showed how big brands can stay relevant by aligning with consumer-driven stories. So why are these changes happening now? First, consumer-generated content has become more powerful than ever. People tend to trust what other users say, like reviews, videos, and memes, more than what brands put out themselves. Second, when there's a gap between what a brand says and what consumers experience, that mismatch can hurt trust between customer and the brands. We have also seen that even small inconsistencies across platforms can damage brand trust. Also, people not jump between platforms constantly. They might see a tweet in the morning, a TikTok during lunch, and an Instagram story at night. So brands have to keep up with that flow, not just stick to one channel. And finally, there's a real pressure for brands to respond quickly, especially during the viral events or public backlash. How they handle those moments can make or break how they are seen. One great example is Duolingo's TikTok strategy. They didn't just post static content. They leaned into humor, replied to user comments, and created real-time videos that matched the TikTok vibe. This helped them to build a strong, authentic connection with their audience and stay relevant. Looking ahead, coordination of brand story is going to be a long-term priority, not just a one-off strategy for campaigns. It will involve more than just a marketing team. Content creators, data analysts, and local market teams all need to work together to make sure the brand story feels consistent, relevant, and human. And while flexibility will be the key to adapting across regions and platforms, brands will still need a strong identity so they don't lose clarity. In summary, the brands that listen, adopt, and evolve their communities will be the ones that stand out and stay relevant. That's all for our presentation. Thank you.